Ryan, really excited to have you on the Base to Space. My name is Mewtwo, and I'm the founder and host of the space, and
Cool.
joined by my two co-hosts, Super High and Chase. Say what's up, guys.
Hey, Ryan.
Cool. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on. And me and Howard, really appreciate it. It's a great format. It'd be great to participate.
Hell yeah. Is this your first Twitter space?
It's the first where I participated. I mean, I've kind of jumped in some ones just to listen, but I usually zone out after 5 minutes. But this is pretty cool to be on the other side for sure. I'll probably join more moving forward now that I see this type of engagement going on in various communities. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, this is the wave, especially with crypto Twitter.
Yep.
Like all of our followers are notified. Everyone's aware of the space, and yeah, it's just like another way to connect with your audience. And obviously, you guys have a huge community around Unfed, so it's another way to connect with them.
Yep, cool.
Right on. I always like to ask new people, like when they come onto the space, like, Ryan, how'd you get started in crypto?
Let me see. It was I was working for Millennial Media, which was one of the largest independent mobile advertising networks. I was leading the R&D, and an engineer that I hired, I was looking over, and he was just constantly all day checking a crypto chart of Bitcoin price, and he was like one of the biggest nerds I know, very security focused. I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, I'm looking at my Bitcoin go up. And that got me like interested to sort of follow Bitcoin and follow how things are going. I didn't put money in or anything. I thought the technology was interesting. I was reading all the papers and all that. And then I literally got more heads down into it when my company, which was doing sort of location device analytics, was bought by a company, and they're like, "You're going to lead a Internet of Things identity group, and we should build Internet of Things identity products." And the first product we landed on was sort of a spin on public key infrastructure, on how to manage keys when devices are being compromised all the time and being needed to be removed from the network and new ones joined, and managing the key material became a problem. And then you have to like assign an identity to a device. So I had two cryptography engineers. One had been mining Bitcoin and paying for his rent back in 2012. I was like, geez, gotta be rich now. But he was involved in the tech. We started to look at various ways that some of this blockchain tech was identifying devices, like doing identity. You can put a key on, and you can send messages and do things. We're doing lower level protocols like telehash, sort of lower level cryptography protocols. But we started to do prototypes in Ethereum because it had the best developer tools. Couldn't do much in Bitcoin. We looked at other protocols like IOTA. It's still around. I kind of look at it, I'm like, okay. But we would vet the technology. It was like IOTA could be compromised via game theory. We're like, okay. So that really got me sort of in the lower level of how important this technology could be applied in various industries. And then from there, I went to Asia in 2018. I did nothing but spend my crypto in Asia. I've probably been in every bank in Philippines, Singapore, and met people to trade over the counter my crypto from there. And then 2018 is when we kicked off this concept. Me and Howard wanted to focus on the lending ecosystem. It's really what drives finance, monetary velocity. Howard has a great story about back in the day, people would trade apples, give up their apples for a promise of getting something else. And then we wrote the white paper, focused on Ethereum at first, and then the rest is sort of what you see now, how we developed from 2018, 19, and then primarily in 20 when we launched the eRSDL token.
Wow, that's incredible. And like, what was kind of like the initial spark, like that you guys said that you guys were saying to go all in on Fed?
Howard, I don't know if Howard's mic is working. Howard tells a much better story.
I think I'm back. Am I back?
Yep, I stalled with a long text story for them, on how I got into crypto, Howard. Why I gave you a chance to
love it. Yeah, you told them all the ones and zeros.
Like, yeah, I tried to bore them.
What was the question? What got us to commit, like to kind of go all in?
The diner event. The diner event.
Oh yeah, we were at the Tom Sawyer in Saddlebrook,
Yep.
famous for John Quinones's special of What Would You Do, and we had a plate of cheese fries and gravy, disco fries, and Ryan's telling me all about how everything is going to be bought and sold with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and how there's going to be no need for money anymore. And I thought he was crazy, but he mentioned the fact that when you sold the stuff to actually like buy a pizza or whatever, you had to pay taxes. And I was like, man, there should be a way for people to get money. Like there should be a way for people to use crypto without having to sell it. And we drove, wrote on the back of a napkin, kind of like our own kind of borrowing lending protocol idea, and just started to go after it. And we really, and honestly, I'll tell you something. It's interesting. So I remember we saw the Dharma paper, the first Dharma paper that came out, and I remember sitting there with a pen and being like, I can't believe all these tech people took all these nice finance terms like underwrite and funding and everything, and they made it all. They took all my finance language and made it all techie. And so we kind of marked it up and put it aside and went after the traditional. We were right behind BlockFi 90 days, and we were like going to go that route. And we had the brightest minds. Ryan, remember that in SoCal? Everybody in a room.
Yep. Yep.
We had probably some of the top minds in the country in consumer lending literally price out the acquisition funnel, the cost of capital, the losses. And they were like, you know what you can't do? You can't make a crypto for fiat loan in the same way you would make like a car loan, because the costs would be ginormous for a secured piece of paper. The only way you can do it is if you gambled with the borrower's collateral. And they all sat here and they were like, oh yeah, this is how I would do it. I'd use it to cover shorts and I would do this and that. And I was like, we're not going to ever do that. I'm like, I would never do that. I would never hypothecate a Main Street USA borrower's collateral like that. And so we spent 2 years trying to figure out how to do it. And then we ended up at DeFi. We ended up right where we started with Dharma. So that's kind of how we got here. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. No, your story is awesome. And was compliance always top of mind from the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, I'm an Eagle Scout, and I think beyond that too, my first job out of college was at like an investment bank that, made some questionable decisions and stuff. And I just saw like, yeah, these people made money, but they were doing it the wrong way and they all paid a price in the end. And then I went right from that to like a public company that was a gas company right around when Enron blew up. And then I was like, oh, so these are now public companies that are doing the wrong thing. Like, where can you go? And then I ended up in banking. And and then finally at an accounting firm for 10 years. And I think between banking and accounting, I really saw this idea of, look, if regulatory and following regulatory and compliance guidelines de-risks projects. I'm talking at the Wyoming Stampede thing on Thursday. And I even put this in that where I was like, if you want to raise the value of a project, you got two options. You either increase the benefit stream to the holder of the asset, or you lower the risk of receiving that benefit stream. Well, no one knows the real benefit streams of a lot of their projects, right? They don't really control how big the market and how much the market will bear cost-wise, because it's still the great unknown. But you do know how risky you are. And if you are purposefully flying in the face of whatever jurisdictional, control you fall under, you're putting an unnecessary burden on the project. So just do it the right way, and at least demonstrate that you're trying, and you actually increase the value of your project doing so.
No, 100%. I had this question a little bit later, but maybe we can answer this now. Like, from your perspective, like, where do you see like U.S. regulations moving to, and how is that going to be affecting like all the projects that aren't compliant or aren't even thinking about compliance at this point?
Is this being taped? Is this show?
Yeah, we can cut it. We can cut it.
Not kidding. It's funny too, is I love, like Ryan said, I heard him, I can tell like from the people that are following the call, there's some really great unfed agents and folks on. And I love being around the family and having these kind of talks. So I think the reality is, my dad used to say, Stan is one of our advisors. He'd always say, "How, you know what the golden rule is?" And I'd say, "What, Dad?" He'd go, "He who has the gold makes the rules." And he was also kind of cynical in that regard. But the idea being is, look, at some point, Uncle Sam is going to want their piece. Every country that, there's a great book called Bioeconomics by Michael Rothschild, and he talks about how all governments are kleptocracies, not democracies, not republics, or theocracies, they're kleptocracies, meaning the government takes from everybody as much as they can, and they give you enough back. They give you just enough back so that you don't throw them out entirely. And that's kind of the reality, right? That the government is going to get their piece. So you just got, I think at some point, all projects are going to have some form of regulatory oversight, if they don't already, that they're going to have to comply with. And it's not the worst thing in the world if it protects the consumer. Ultimately, if it makes for a safer, better product and a more fulfilling experience for the consumer, then all the regulatory stuff is worth it. If it's a power grab and they're just trying to centralize the thing that we're fighting so hard to make decentralized, that's when I take exception. I don't know, Ryan, do you have any thoughts on kind of regulatory stuff and where we're heading?
No, nothing other than you brought me closer to where your point of view is. You would always call me like a crypto anarchist. Like, I want to be bankless and work in this perfect world of I just transact via my private keys and all of that. I think over time, over the course of 2 years, you've got me toward the benefits of having some sort of framework in place. Where I'm not, there is no golden world where my head and my ideology was. It's somewhere in the middle, and I feel they two can play well together.
And I've loosened
that's
up,
all.
right? And I've loosened up because there was a time where I really felt like, what you were able to demonstrate to me, Rai, is that there are tasks that regulators ask you to perform because of how the data is handled. Like, wherever there's a handoff, there has to be an audit. And what you've taught me is that with DeFi and just blockchain technology in general, you really remove about a third of those pain points. So it's not the fact that the government necessarily, in regulation and oversight, can take a break because there's just less issues to certain aspects of the transaction. And you've brought me off of my kind of high horse there, so I appreciate it.
Yep.
I'm actually curious, sticking on the topic of compliance, like what are some of the biggest roadblocks right now that you guys are facing building in the industry with kind of remaining compliant?
Oddly enough, it hasn't been terrible. FinCEN and getting a, MTL, a money license, and MSB, that process, we've had some really good, call it, advisory and just kind of insight from the team and vendors and what have you, that if you demonstrate forward progress, there's an understanding that you can't snap your fingers and have everything watertight overnight. So it's been very good to hear and see demonstrated that as long as you are being a good actor and moving towards building that infrastructure and getting a little better at it all the time, you don't have to, it's not like the clock's going to run out. It's not like they're going to throw the chains on and shut you down. Like, as long as you are progressing, you're in good shape. I'd say where the biggest adoption hurdles are with in talking about blockchain and crypto is really source of funds. So when we talk with our potential bank customers and we talk about with our non-bank lenders and our tribal banks and everything, there's less skepticism about the technology and there's less skepticism about the regulatory environment, and really of just a broader overarching concern of how do you demonstrate the source of funds is vetted, so that if there's like a bouncing ball or a hot potato, they're not going to get caught with it. But we're able to demonstrate that there's ways to track that too. It's like chainless and all sorts and other things. But I would say that's where the biggest regulatory concern is that just no one wants to be left holding something that gets pulled from them because it wasn't properly vetted. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Real quick, Howard, while we're on compliance, I was wondering if you could speak on your partnership with Alliance Block, because I know that they're fully compliant with KYC and AML.
So it's pending. It's not an inked partnership. We've had conversations about really a thing about a strategic marketing joint venture. With Alliance Block, they are what had happened was this: we had a lot of folks from around the world reach out to us with stories of, look, in our jurisdiction, we have the same problems you do. Central bank, a couple of big kind of private sector banks, and then a whole lot of folks that either are small banks clamoring at the big banks for money or non-banks that are just kind of SOL all over the place, right? So the same challenge in America, it's a global opportunity from our perspective to just make markets more efficient. So there was a group in Europe that came to us, and they're like one of these hundreds of years old kind of wealth management kind of companies, and they were talking about crypto and wanting to be our EMEA licensees. Like they wanted to basically sell our product in Europe and get full domain over it. And we're working here on delivering products to the US market. And so you have to think strategically, like, okay, what do I do with my resources, right? Do you take the team off the field and send them over to Europe, or do you keep chugging through here where the territory? And so we made a strategic decision to just focus on, let's get the US right, keep it scalable as we go so that we can bring in other jurisdictions because we know what we need. We need boots on the ground in finance. We need boots on the ground in legal, and a couple of inroads at non-bank lenders, and whatever tax jurisdiction you have, those three bodies, you got the whole market. So in talking with our European guys, I'd known about Alliance Block for a while. I liked, I like the story. I think we have a different way of approaching the issue, but we both agree that we should be providing upwards feedback to like the regulatory compliance folks. And also their focus more on high net worth individuals as opposed to our focus on non-bank lenders. I was like, there's enough daylight between us that let me hook you guys up with these European folks. And that's really where the conversation was. Like, they're not in a position where they're looking to deliver what we're describing to the US non-bank market. I can't speak for their business strategy, but that's kind of where the call went. And vice versa, we're not looking to provide liquidity between like RIAs and high net worth individuals at this point. We're looking more at different classes of wealth and liquidity. Does that make sense? So we have an alignment, but we're in different territory, but we both believe in that same kind of principled regulatory compliance approach for everyone to be successful.
Yeah, no, definitely. That it makes sense, just staying in your lane with helping smaller people, smaller banks. And then, yeah. So I appreciate you touching on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Yeah, great outfit. And, again, to me, the most exciting part is this idea of forming councils, right? When Gary Gensler speaks, it would be great if, Lex Sokolin and Cagney and me, bringing Amber from ALBT, so some other kind of heavy hitters here. I was at Mainnet today in New York, and Mashinsky was walking around. Like having a group of professionals that are kind of the vanguard of the different areas, providing, maybe a little lobbying money, but more so than that, like providing constructive kind of treaties on ways to regulate and oversee our industry without having that dictated to us by folks that really don't understand the technology. I think that's a little bit of the tail wagging the dog. So there's an opportunity for us to get ahead of it and be a thought leader. That's where Alliance Block wants to go, and that's and we're on the same page with them there.
That's super exciting to hear that you're focused on just being fully compliant. So the people that use your protocol have nothing to worry about. And I kind of just want to switch gears more on Unfed as a protocol. Could you describe for somebody that maybe hasn't read anything about Unfed, how the token is used across the platform?
Yeah, sure. Ryan, I'll let you. I'll pick up the ball, but I'm gonna hand it off to you, and you can talk about some of the more technical aspects of what we got going on. So the token is a digital marker, which is a term I just picked up and I love. Like there was that Figure New York Community Bank announcement where they talked about how they're using Figure's new digital marker to transfer instead of stablecoin. And you always got to watch that, like the use of language, because if like something like stablecoin kind of triggers certain action, it's change the name, right, and kind of change the sentiment. So they use the term digital marker instead of stablecoin, and I like the term digital marker for kind of crypto in general. So eResidual is a digital marker for our software platform to recognize that our hosts have access to the DeFi platform itself. So right now we have reserve lending. So reserve lending is up, and anyone with a wallet, unless it's an OFAC or a prohibited wallet, can connect and supply and borrow. And it's the same, kind of basic compound fork and what have you. We have added our own ability to read whether your wallet holds eResidual or not. And the way you can tell is if you use our borrowing and lending, if you use reserve lending, if you have eResidual in your wallet, you'll see like a little star up by your name. And if you don't, you get a little prompt on where to go to buy some. So we're already toying with that technology of, okay, I can identify that you have the token in your wallet. Great. Well, remember, our hosts are really host banks that are allowing these non-bank lenders to manage cash between each other, right? It's kind of like the host is like a hub, and all the different users are the spokes. Well, we are entitled as a software company, because we're a software company, to collect a licensing fee for this banking software. Everyone does it. And so the way we intend to charge the licensing fee is really simply like a reserve factor on a DeFi platform today. A small percentage of whatever rate the platform that the host is hosting charges to the borrowers gets scraped off, gets sent from the host back to us, and we use a portion of that fee that comes back to us to then buy our token out of the market, put in a wallet in the name of the host, and we basically don't have to like stay on top of where our software users are in terms of their license. Like, we know that they're able to use the software because they've been paying their licensing fee. How do I know that? Because they have this eResidual in their wallets. And then we'll develop a mechanism to, run that out, right? So that like, you can see kind of that, reduction in the licensing fee tracking, so that we know that, hey, we got to turn them off when it gets to zero. So the token is really used in the end game is really, like I said, as a digital marker for the licensing fee. In the interim, it has DAO-like capabilities. Our logo, new token we just listed. We're voting on collateral factor adjustments. Either I think tomorrow the vote will go up if it's not already up, but the vote will go up tomorrow for a schema. So we have like quasi DAO capabilities that are associated with our token, but then ultimately the economic value is the fact that it's our way of tracking the hosts that have paid their fees. Do you follow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the
Me too.
DAO, can any user submit something to be adjusted on the protocol, or how does the DAO currently operate?
Ryan, that's all. It's a snapshot vote, right? And then if you have your token, your vote gets counted. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we're getting ready to launch, as part of what Howard said, sort of a forum similar to other projects, Sushi and whatnot, to provide initial signaling of things that could go up for a vote. But in order to interact with Snapshot, you must be with our two snapshots. We have untoken voting, which is if you're a supplier, you get the receipt token, untoken. So we don't want to lose votes and influence there. And then we also have a snapshot for our main e-residual token. You have to hold the token in order to vote. Folks can make forum posts coming this week to signal an activity that they would like us to take. A threaded discussion within that forum will take place, similar to AVE and Snapshot and Sushi. And then the snapshot voting is the true signal of the community. How many tokens participate? What's a quorum going to look like? And then how do the votes of the two e-residual and then normal e-residual, how do they add up to really provide community signaling and participation and in order to guide us into what next actions to take. So it's typical snapshot. I mean, snapshot.
Cool. You know what's cool, Ryan, when you describe it. I love hearing you describe it. What's cool, it's like, we have internal governance too. We have a pricing and product committee, and we have an ALCO committee, and we actually have representatives on that committee, like Sovereign. Sovereign Sam. You see him as a moderator. He's our head of customer success and business development. So it's interesting that there's almost like this Senate House of Representatives thing going on where we put these proposals up internally, but then we also, as part of that process, we look to the community to approve it. And it's this really cool. I feel like it's the best of both worlds, where you do have this symbiosis between the community and maybe like more, call it product, traditional product focus governance. And really, I honestly believe this, that give us 30 days, give us 60 days. I honestly think our DeFi platform will probably be the example that other DeFi projects look to, not just from user experience, but also functionality, but also this governance concept where they're like, hey, you know what? There's a good balance here. But I honestly, I like the DAO. I do really appreciate the DAO aspects of DeFi, and would honestly love to see something like the whole project lifted to DAO status, over time. But it has to be done in a curated manner. You can't just. I don't think it's responsible to anybody to just kind of flip a switch and let folks just have at it. Not yet.
Yeah, 100%. And like when you're saying it's going to be like the example of DeFi, like what do you view as like the key points that are going to set it apart? Like, obviously user experience is a really big one. Like, I don't see a lot of DeFi products having that great of UX, especially for like newbie retail that's maybe just doing their first DeFi transaction ever. But is there anything else there that you could touch on?
Well, I think it goes back to our principles. We have these 5 principles of safety, courtesy, inclusivity, efficiency, and show. And the whole business runs off of those 5 principles. First off, I mean, I don't go around reading the mission, vision, and value statements of the other DeFi platforms out there. And I'd impress it upon those folks that are listening that if they are in those projects, it's a great thing to have. But I think because we work from our principles out, because we work from known technologies out, we aren't we're not the ones that are going to pivot on a dime and in the course of a few days be like, hey, we're doing this new thing because this is the hot thing, right? We're gonna take a measured approach, because it's through that measured approach we can live to our principles, provide the best opportunity for our customer success, and let them know that they're in good hands. I mean, at the end of the day, right? You're talking about being the bank. Every individual that shows up and supplies something on the platform is a bank. Every company that has a treasury has the ability to be a bank. Every non-bank lender can be a bank. So our role is to provide in a responsible manner a safe and effective way for individuals to be their own bank. And it's through that kind of combined governance of folks that have been in banking for, like, I think, like I said, our combined team experience is like 200 plus years in banking. And to take that kind of knowledge about banking and taking care of the Main Street customer and taking care of kids and grandmas, combined with the energy and the excitement and the wisdom of the community. There's just brilliant minds in crypto that are like, this is what we're seeing elsewhere. This is what works. This is the way you need to move. The blend of that nimble, brilliant, experienced, excited community with that measured history of banking, really the best pieces of both, will just create a world-class product as a result. It's a foregone conclusion in my mind.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I checked out the team and it's stellar. I'm curious, like, how are you guys planning to work like the tax reporting on the platform? Because we don't really see a lot of DeFi related protocols even supporting any type of tax initiative currently.
Well, first off, we're not tax specialists or tax advisors, so we rely on folks just like anybody else. In fact, we have an affiliation with a company called Computus out of Atlanta, Georgia. We've been affiliated with them for, gosh, going on 2 years now. And they got a real just kind of crackerjack program of looking at wallets and coming up with ways of looking at transactions from even the most, call it, excited trader, right? These guys have a way to kind of peel back the onion and get you set up for success there. So if there is a tax question, you always got to refer to those experts. As a company, we leverage both outsourced CFO services and these guys to help put our books together. Well, if I could, as a follow, if I may just ask you back a question, what would you like to see? I guess that's the question here. Is that what would you like to see platforms like ours provide as far as tax support for its users?
Yeah, I think for me, at like a bare minimum, providing like an Excel sheet or a downloadable CSV of just kind of all the activities I've done on that particular DeFi platform would be extremely helpful. Even to verify, my manual records to make sure that I'm logging everything correctly and tracking appropriately.
Oh, I like that. Right. Can we do it? You put a ticket in? Are you in front of your computer too, or no?
Yeah, I'm of course taking notes, taking feedback. And remember, it was like mid last year, earlier in the year before we launched the token, where we actually wrote a utility for Computus to parse and extract the data. And then it was a great 3-hour sort of brainstorming session with them on, they would add and flatten into normal tax accounting terms what we were exporting from Etherscan. And we used my wallets as an example, and it was a lot. Like I was doing Circle and doing a lot of previous yield farming. So a lot of the transactions they hadn't seen before. So it was really a collaborative event to overlay how to flatten the transactions into normal accounting terms, and then me brain dumping on them 3 or 4 wallets that were a total DeFi yield farming, something that no one had seen before because it was early early when Curve just came out and Yearn, and I was farming Yearn and all that. So it was a great collaboration, and that's why I feel great about the partnership. And yes, I took that
I
as
think it's a
a
great
note.
idea.
Yep.
And you said the company name was Computus?
Yeah, Computus, or a Crypto Tax. I don't know if they have two different companies, but Computus out of
Yep.
Alpharetta, Georgia. Right, you know, it'd be great. This would be great because I
Yep.
got to talk to Sloan next week anyway. We could, you know how we were trying to get them, like we did the intro to Binance and stuff with them,
Mhm.
where they would provide those kind of gain loss statements
Mhm.
for like everybody on Binance. Remember that?
Yep.
We could have them do that for us. Like basically, if you have to have your wallet attached, right?
Yep.
But have them like produce a
Yep.
gain loss statement. That's cool.
Yep. And I know a lot of the community questions, and even internally on the team, is some of the tax advice. We're not tax advisors, but a lot of questions are around just, when you're exchanging and staking and you're getting receipt tokens, what are the tax consequences? And a lot of folks are nervous whenever they're exchanging things, so you having them and providing some sort of guidance as well would be, as well as reporting on implications of taking XYZ actions on your platform is also a value add. I'd be interested to get feedback from the community on stuff like that.
Let me ask you this. If they did, because remember, like you have all the anonymous wallets, like if they did gain loss on all the attached wallets and and converted it to like an ERC token and dropped it in their wallet, would people not like that? If they got like a gain loss statement from us in their wallet?
Like an NFT or something with some metadata attached, like a document attached or something.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. Like here's your unfed 1099 basically.
Yeah. Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. And I find NFTs are interesting, and IPFS, like NFTs can be a communication mechanism if you're dropping an NFT with meaningful value. I've been dipping into NFTs and why TVL is moving there, and it's pretty interesting when you like an NFT that represents a tax report dropped in your wallet that attaches to an IPFS report. But again, privacy needs to be important, right?
Verified, right? Are you going to trust it?
There's ways through, but it is an interesting concept. And
yeah. All right. Sorry, guys. I just like the idea.
Sorry.
We got
went down a little tangent there, which can happen sometimes in crypto.
It's a great idea. Okay.
I got rugged, so sorry if this was already addressed while I was reconnecting. But in line, you guys were talking about the action that you can take on the platform and being able to track for tax reporting purposes. So in line, we're talking about the services that you guys provide. Can you guys kind of touch on the supply assets and the borrow assets and kind of how that works within the ecosystem?
Ryan, do you want to talk at a high level? I mean, we have the 9 tokens. Is that I assume that's what you're referring to, like what tokens you can supply and what have you?
Yeah, just like as a user, how can you use the reserve lending?
Yeah, I can talk to that. I mean, it is a standard DeFi lending protocol. I mean, it is very similar to Aave, and we're actually a fork of Compound for various reasons. You do supply an asset. You can just supply the asset and earn a return just on its own merit because people will be borrowing from that supply. You can also enable it as collateral via a toggle. Which gives you sort of an on-chain sort of, I'm enabling this asset, and you can then borrow up to your collateral factor of that asset accordingly. And so it does, and from there it gets a little more complicated. You might supply 5 different assets with 5 different collateral factors with prices moving underneath. We do have Chainlink oracles for everything but eResidual right now, but we do have an active Telegram channel, and I really love how they actually leaned in with us pretty heavily 3 weeks ago on like, what does this look like moving forward? Let's get measurable metrics of what we want to see from your liquidity depth. So it does take in those factors, but since it's a fork of Compound, you can really get an idea of how the protocol works, and I just explained it in a pretty basic sense. Any questions around what I described? Anything that I might have confused or?
No, that makes complete sense.
Okay, sure.
But our listeners, we have a range of listeners from beginners, intermediate to experts, so it's just always good to kind of cover.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like from a simple I know if you have a wallet and you have those tokens in it, you can attach it, you can supply it, and you can borrow it. And if you hold our token, you get a gold star. That's kind of like that's the beginning and the end of my of how I'd use it.
And I'm actually curious, looking on your guys' website, you guys kind of have the infographic showing your rates. I'm curious, is that sustainable to be able to apply, the higher interest returns, the APYs, or will that kind of even out as more liquidity starts to flow in through the protocol?
Yeah. So, Rye, I can hit that.
Sure.
So we use various interest rate models for each of the pairs, and if you go back to grade school and you think about proportions, like A over X equals B over Y. And if I lost folks at propor, then I'm sorry. But if you remember, it just kind of good old fashioned proportions. Essentially, the amount of interest paid to the suppliers is a function of how much interest the borrowers are paying, less that reserve factor. And so you do have the option with these interest rate models to set inflection points where rates get very high for borrowers to basically encourage them to pay off their loans so that it frees up liquidity, and vice versa. And then as you fall below certain ratios of utilization, the rates also drop. So part of our game plan is, again, this is the community's platform. If you think about it, I'm asking you to be the bank. So you should have a transparent and absolutely clear understanding as to how all the numbers on the page are calculated, right? Think about it, guys. Like, you're coming in with your money. I'm asking you to put your money and supply it on the platform. The how an interest rate is calculated or shown can't be guesswork. It can't be surprised, right? You should know 110%, so you can do your own modeling. So one of the things that we are developing from that transparency perspective are dashboards and tools that I don't think they're going to be permission to e-residual holders. We've been talking about ways to help the utility and stuff like that. But I think something as basic as how the interest rate models work should be should be as transparent as it can possibly be. So yeah, the rates right now in the stable coins were the rates that were put in effect when we were looking to dislodge some of the stablecoin borrow side. And we think we got it pretty much to the point that we're going to get it, right? Because the folks that are now stablecoin borrowers paying in the mid 30s, they're clearly comfortable doing that for a variety of reasons. So, our next move is to adjust the collateral factors based on what the community decides is the right thing to do. And we hope that loosens it up. And then the last thing is going to, not the last thing, but the next thing is we are talking about, the protocols on integrations. We're talking to the DEXs about, different liquidity pools and all those kinds of options, all the things to really kind of put the wind in the sails that we want to bring, to bear after we get some of these factors figured out. But those rates will change based off of the ratio of supply to demand.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. I hopefully it does.
Yeah, no,
address it?
completely. Yeah, thank you for diving into that.
Howard, kind of switching gears. More of like a hypothetical situation. Does Unfed plan on onboarding traditional banks, say like Wells Fargo, to integrate a DeFi solution, and kind of provide more retail customers that don't really want to get into the DeFi space?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have a memo of understanding with a publicly traded bank currently. We are, no, I don't say we're sitting on that announcement, but they're legal. Like we just announced the percent thing. We're developing some of the products. So to announce publicly who that public bank is, without having the what I want to have in place with them as far as here's the development roadmap we're going to do in place. It's a little premature, but the idea is, Wells Fargo, a great example. That's one of those big banks that is already kind of call it crowding out other liquidity providers just from their scale. And so I would say that of the banks domestically we're talking to, they are banks that have assets in the range of 5 to 40 billion. All right. So if you think about those banks, it's the banks that have 5 to 40 billion are the ones that have the big enough balance sheet to be interested in our product, because it comes with a big deposit base of these non-bank lenders, and they obviously do make some money on the spread, but they're not so big that you're dealing like you're having to cut across like 5 silos, right? So I would say the sweet spot for the bank that adopts DeFi first is going to be that 5 to 40 billion dollar asset bank. But yeah, we are talking to those. I'm more interested in the non-bank lenders, quite frankly. I can't tell you, like, it'll break your heart. You talk to one of these tribal lenders where they have a customer base in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and they can't get bank accounts. They can't get more than a handful of sources of liquidity, including family offices, casinos, marijuana related businesses, all because they're just kind of cut out from the just sort of like the rest of the national banking system. So an entity like that is moving billions of dollars of paper. They have hundreds of millions of dollars of cash at any given time. I'm more excited to help them be the bank than I am helping a Wells Fargo be a bigger bank.
That makes sense. Thank you. Also, I know we're kind of going short on time here. We typically let people up from the audience to ask questions, members from the community, just people listening. Would you be down for that?
Yeah, please. Go for it.
Sweet. If anybody wants to request or had a question for both Ryan or Howard, definitely request. We'll let you on one at a time.
While we're waiting for someone to join in from the audience, Ryan and Howard, can you guys kind of give us like a high level view? Like, what do you guys kind of see playing out over the next, couple of years for Unfed?
Well, we're going down the roadmap, releasing products. I would say that in the past month, what's been interesting is the number of funds that have come to us and said, if you come up with a way to get DeFi folks and crypto accumulated wealth individuals into our funds, they'll cover as much of the build as we need them to. And they're obviously going to handle the marketing and the fund management piece. And each one of those funds, when I have the conversation with them and they describe why they want to be represented, through our platform, and they tell me some of the mission and the vision that they have, merchant cash advance companies that help like urban area stores, franchises, mom and pops, again, the tribal lenders, there's a micro lending fund, and these guys all generate yields with a decent amount of safety attached. They're generating yields in the 8, 9, 10% range. And if you can get a non-Ethereum or non-crypto correlated investment at 8 to 10% with maybe a 60 to 90 day lockup, it's one of these things where they could really use what our community and what the crypto community has available to it. It's being done for the right reason. And what I see is our platform being a place where, like I said, the folks that are done going from farm to farm to farm, or maybe there's a correction or for whatever, maybe they're going on vacation and they don't have to worry about where their stuff is. Giving folks an opportunity to invest in just a litany of retail funds without incurring any of the tax consequences that come from a sale, right? Being able to get into traditional finance without having to make a sale and pay your taxes. And I think that's a win. So that's where I see the reserve lending, the DeFi platform really just, again, maturing, multi-chain, different types of pools, different types of fund treasury tools. But then I see reserve funding really being this place where these underbanked, these under Federal Reserved non-bank lenders can go to their source of capital. And then I see at the B2B level, really our software being used to make more efficient some of the major, call it securities infrastructure in the United States, the repo markets, the DTCC, et cetera. Sky's the limit.
That's awesome. Thank you for diving into that. See, we have our first guest speaker up here, Bobby.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. This is That Guy Fades. Hi, Howard. So I have a question regarding the digital licensing fee. So you mentioned how if a licensee were to hold eRSDL in their wallet, you guys will be able to see that and know they're holding that, and therefore they have paid a licensing fee. Now, I know it hasn't been decided whether there's going to be some sort of burn mechanism or lockup or distribution, but given one of those things were to occur, what's going to be in the licensee's wallet? Is it going to be a token? Is it going to be 50%? And if it is a significant amount, what keeps them from selling?
So we would maintain custody of those tokens. It's our software's digital marker to know whether or not that host is permissioned, or that if that fund is permissioned to use the software. This isn't something where they're paying. And I'm sorry, I haven't made this clear, and definitely want to have. I'll put a Medium article out that it kind of stick in boxes it a little. So if you think about the host being this public bank, right? Well, this public bank has a number of suppliers and borrowers on its safe harbor DeFi built on our rails, right? So this bank has banking customers that are engaged in DeFi using our rails, and they're all KYC to the bank and what have you. Well, all the borrowers, the cumulative borrowers of that bank, like a reserve factor, if you will, because if you recall, or maybe not recall, but if you think about it, all the suppliers and borrowers in this bank are really just going to be supplying and borrowing in USDC. It's really using a stable coin as a digital marker to kind of balance the accounts between these banks' customers. So let's say the average rate on all the borrowers on that host's instance of Reserve B2B is about 4%. Okay, so all the borrowers are 4%, the suppliers get 2%, the bank makes 2%, they're excited, the suppliers are happy for getting their 2% interest, the borrowers are happy they're only paying 4%, the bank gets 2%, residual token, unFederal Reserve says you got to pay 50 basis points, 0.5% of that 1.5% to us. That's our licensing fee. So then we take that 0.5%, we take that 50 basis points and say we allocate half of that to go out and buy eResidual on behalf of that host. We put it into a wallet that we have the keys, and we know it's their wallet. And so as that wallet has the eResidual, and there's some depletion mechanism built in, like you said, the burning, the Robinhood redistribution, the holding in perpetuity, right? Whatever everyone decides we do with that digital marker, the host itself never has possession of it. It is simply our way of keeping track of who's paid their licensing fee. Does that answer the question?
Yes. Okay. So the host does not have the actual tokens, and the subscription sort of depletes over time, I would assume, and then they have to buy more or renew their subscription.
Yeah, and it's really a function of their borrowers, right? Like, as long as they have a healthy borrower ecosystem at their bank, using the supply that all these other non-bank lenders are providing. Because remember, the non-bank lenders that are providing their supply, they could have their cash being swept to Chase or Wells and getting paid zero on it. So there needs to be a reason why they're saving at the host. And if the reason they're saving at the host is because they're earning 2%, well, someone needs to be paying 4% in order for them to earn there too. And so there's a motivation on the part of the host to go out and increase their lender base because it makes them more profitable, and they got a great thing to market. That's what the bank that we're dealing with loves. The fact that the bank that we're dealing with knows that there are 4 or 5 non-bank lenders already interested in being supplier borrowers. Just, we got to get from here to there, and there's tech and regulatory and legal all tied to that.
All right, great. Thanks for answering my question.
Anytime, man. And if you're a holder, thanks for being a holder. And if you're not, then reconsider. But either way, I appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming on, Bobby. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, Bobby's definitely a good holder. He's actually submitted a bug bounty. He's an active participant to improve security and the economic security of the platform. So we always appreciate you, Bobby. Thanks for asking.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, nice. That's cool, man.
Yep.
I thank you. I got to tell you, I mean, the best thing about waking up every day, my unfed gear, is just being part of something that is such a collective effort. And I know not everybody involved in the project is like, wholesome and wholehearted and all that jazz. And I know people have different motives for being, but it's just like meeting a guy like Bobby, right? Who I'd never meet if not for doing this with Ryan. So just one of the little joys of being part of something like this. Thank you.
Yeah, we actually talk about that a lot here in the spaces. This is a special place because where else in person are you gonna get in a room with 80 people to talk about something like this from all different calibers of being in the industry? Like, there's a lot of beginners, there's a lot of people that are intermediate, and then obviously there's the pros. And I just don't see anywhere else where people can communicate like this. So this medium, Twitter Spaces, is definitely something special.
Nice.
What's going on, Keith?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey.
Hey, and also thanks Mewtwo. You're probably my favorite Pokemon, so thanks for having me on here. I have 2 questions, if that's allowed, for Howard, and I would say, and one is probably, I guess, more of a comment, and so I'll start with that one because we kind of talk taxes, and I know you guys aren't tax experts, but I love the fact that you mentioned, really what got you guys into the idea when you first started was, hey, I wish that you could, go through a loan process and, not have to sell and take the hit of some of those taxes. And to my understanding, the borrowing side in crypto, at least for now, is not a taxable event. And I know you guys can't really talk about that, but I do think, I live in California. California, we get taxed like crazy. And a lot of holders out there, especially just in any other project of the fiats or the different coins that they hold, they have a fear of, well, what's the taxes and, how's that going to play a part? And if there is an outlet, I know Compound's similar and they can go to Aave and whatnot, but if I take a loan out and I'm able to borrow and put some collateral down and avoid a taxable event, it allows for me to have these options to invest in, even with eRSDL, invest in a whole bunch of different types of assets that I would never have been able to. And I think that whole, message is something that I don't think a lot of people really understand. Am I correct by that, by the way?
I'd say in part, right? Borrowing is not a taxable event as long as you pay back the loan.
Correct. Yes.
If you don't pay back the loan and you go into default, then at least in the States, the lender of record can submit a forgiveness letter to you and to the IRS. And, you're basically saying like, hey, look, we've forgiven your loan, right? Like that's the only recourse the lender of record has. if your loan is forgiven, the IRS recognizes that as income. And so if you know, in the instance where somebody, say, borrows, 80 cents on the dollar of stablecoin against a moonshot in a way to kind of affect a sale without having a sale, if that borrower isn't a total anon and is doxed in any way, then essentially you could get a forgiveness letter and then have to deal with it. But absent a forgiveness letter, a loan in and of itself is not a taxable event. So you're right there.
Okay, cool. All right, and then my I guess my actual question, because I know you go to these banks, and there are some banks that just, I'm sure, give you a hard time with getting into DeFi. What do you see is the biggest hurdle for getting some of these banks to buy in?
It's funny being in professional services for better partner at a top accounting firm, and obviously my time at KPMG and the Big Four. You learn from a sales perspective. It's like Groundhog Day. You have the conversation and you see where it goes, and you step in the puddle, or you correct your misstep. Every time you have the conversation, you get better at messaging in a way that reflects more of what they want to hear while still being genuine to the product, okay, and being authentic, and being honest. And so what I've learned is to walk into a regional bank, that $5 billion to $40 billion bank, and try to, you can't sell them on the immutable record bit. You can't sell them on trustless. These are things that just are not said or not understood, right? So there's a translation error. So the biggest hurdle is navigating the banks with the proper language. Like eResidual acts as a digital marker to track your licensing fee, right? So there, I've described our token, right? I didn't even tell you we had a token. I just said eResidual. I didn't say stable coin, cryptocurrency, digital asset. I made no indication as to this thing being a thing of value, right? So now I've not scared them off there. And then I've said it's to cover the licensing fee for our software, something they already pay and are used to doing. So then the question automatically goes away from the crypto issue and the blockchain issue are completely avoided, because I'm not selling the technology. I'm selling an ability to a host to increase their deposit base, increase their lending base, do it for less money than they would with their traditional software, and it's more secure. So that's the hurdle. The hurdle is keeping the language. It's like playing Operation and taking out the wishbone. You touch the side, get the old, no one likes that. No one likes that. So that's the hurdle.
Okay, cool. All right, and everything else, just love what you guys are doing. Love all the work, all the grassroots stuff you've been doing. So keep it up.
You too.
Great. Thanks for coming on, Keith.
Appreciate it.
Howard, Ryan, just want to do a quick time check for you guys.
11:06.
Yeah, no. How are we doing on time?
8:06.
You're a funny one, Howard. I could tell.
Looks aren't everything. So.
Do you guys have time for a few more people?
Ryan, I'm cool.
Yeah,
You
I can
cool?
keep going. No problem. Of course.
Cool. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Sweet. You have a few more people requested.
Little Link, I see you, brother. Hey, you with us, Little Link?
Hey, sorry, I messed up there. I have a question for you. If this is a bit uncomfortable, just tell me to shut up. So I was heavily invested in eResidual before the platform launch. And then obviously there was like some pretty harsh price action, and I've always wanted to, and so I basically ended up like losing a lot of money and I sold. And I always wanted to invest again, but I was a little bit skeptical just because there was a lot of rumors in FUD kind of swirling after like the original platform drop. And I still to this day don't know if anything was wrong with that, or I just wanted to get like what your take on was on that event. Not necessarily the price action, but was there anything in the platform that was like the cause of that?
Yeah, I got to tell you, there have been 3 days in my life that like were just some really bad days, right? One was when my mom died. That was a tough day to have to deal with that. Second was I was pushing my kid on a swing. I don't really talk about my family all that much, but I'll say it here. And he fell off, and he fell and he hit his head, and I had to take him to the hospital. And I was really, I mean, he was really young, and it really just wrecked me, thinking like, that like I can't believe this has happened. And I would say the night almost after the launch of the platform, as I can kind of see everything unfolding, and I'm sitting here and I was like, as the price was dropping and there was all this kind of, all the comments. And those are like really probably the three toughest kind of times to have to go through. And we've had obviously a couple of months of retrospect here, and frankly, a lot of really great things, in my opinion, came out of it. I mean, the fact that we do our biweekly town halls, and this notion of we're not a bank, and that this is the supplier's money, and we're just the stewards for the rails that the suppliers use to be the bank. And the kind of the greater commitment to transparency, and the ambassador program. And so there were a lot of really good things that came out after the fact, but the price paid was too great. Too many people, including some of my neighbors, you know what I mean? Like obviously I'm not out here like shilling my token, right? Like I'm just not that guy. But there are people that are in my family and community that also were like, hey, this thing's going great, and when can it stop? And they do that, and then they all got hammered. I think the problem was really, you can dissect in many ways to Sunday, but at the end of the day, it was my responsibility to make sure that the platform was ready to go live, and I failed in that responsibility. I failed in it. Had I had the opportunity to live it again, and unfortunately we don't really get that, the token attributes on the platform are such that it encourages nefarious behavior. In essence, you have to have price match risk, and you have to remove economic incentives that promote risky behavior, and forsake the safety and the safety of others. I mean, that's a core principle, and I personally did not live up to it with you, with that platform launch. And it really centers around, if a token price action is incredibly volatile, you really cannot have a high collateral factor against an asset like that is volatile. The ability to borrow eResidual, right? Where, yeah, I mean, if you're doing it because you're bullish and you want to lever up in like a moonshot, and then you're going to wind all that jazz, like that's one way of kind of using the token and the platform and stuff. But is that really call it a responsible way to run a platform that's really looking to endear itself to institutions, to like let folks come here and be a casino with our own token? I just, principally that doesn't align with who we are. And had we been better at thinking through the alpha test period, what could go wrong with the combination of tokens and assets, we probably could have, well, we would have made different decisions. Who knows what the outcome would have been? But all I can tell you is that there are ways to do things better than we had. And I think between our pricing committees and our councils, and even the changes, like I said, we're looking to vote on this week to put into place, will put us not only to be better than we were at launch, but we seek to be the best out there. So I do apologize that you lost money, putting that promise into us and having that taken away. And all I can do is ask to earn your respect again. If you don't give me that opportunity, hell, I don't blame you, because if someone lost a bunch of my money, you'd probably be the last person I'd want to talk to. But I do appreciate you taking the time tonight to reach out and discuss it with me.
Awesome, man. No, thank you so much for that, like, honest and candid response. And like, I think it was Chase who said it's cool because, like, to have an opportunity to be able to come on a platform like this and hear it kind of from the horse's mouth and from you. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the question, and I'll be buying some eResidual tonight. Thank you, my man.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
All right, man. We'll do. What's the thing for all time high? ATHs?
Yeah.
Like, well, I know it's a climb, right? But we'll get some AT.
So Howard,
We'll do that for 2022.
that goes around every time a project comes on base space, it pumps. So
Is that
we
right?
might have to see residual pump.
Not financial advice.
Yeah,
Yeah, guys. Yeah. Listen, I think my head of people, our head chief of human resources, our chief people officer, just sent me a text that at Mainnet, the conference I went to today, a couple of people got subpoenas at the conference. I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah, I saw
So
that.
It's never a
yeah,
boring
I
day in
wonder
crypto.
who.
It is never a boring day.
No, and the food was awesome, man. They had some really great salmon and mac and cheese. So if that's their last meal before being hauled off to Rikers, there are worse ones.
What's going on,
Hey,
Desmond?
businessman.
Hey guys, long time listener, first time caller. Thank you, Howard. Thank you, Ryan, for taking the time to speak with us. I just have one kind of question that's been lingering in the background of some people that follow me. Can you speak a little bit? I'm a little late to this call, so I don't know if you've already talked about it. But can you speak a little bit about the fundraising that you guys are doing for the $5 million, and just kind of behind the scenes, what your plan is with that money and how you're gonna use it to hopefully grow this token?
Yeah, sure. So and I'm sorry for hogging it, Ryan. Ryan, can I take it? Is that cool?
Yeah, I mean, these are business focused. I mean, I'm certainly, when hearing you take responsibility for the platform, I also lump myself in with you taking responsibility. That's all. That's all I wanted to add. It's not just you. It's me and you as co-founders and determining that. So I didn't want to just give it all to you. That's all. Continue on.
When you and I are unstoppable. Like when we're together, and that's one of the things we decided, right? Like we have the next product launch. We're gonna be in the same room for a couple of days. Like as much as everything's virtual, I think we decided as a company that before any major product launch, we're basically going to war room it so that we don't have this crap happen again.
Yep.
Yeah. So okay. So $5 million. So yeah, it's a convertible debt round, meaning first off, this isn't an offer to purchase or buy securities. Just disclaimer, it's more descriptive. So it's a $5 million convertible debt round, meaning that someone would like I'm an equity holder, right? So I just hold equity and then I got a bunch of tokens. This debt round is these folks would have seniority over me in the event something happens. They'd have seniority meaning they get paid from the assets of the company before I would if something happened. And it's convertible into whatever the next fundraising round we have, whatever that share price is as a discount. This is very typical early stage kind of, usually it's pre-revenue and we're actually doing pretty good as a business. So it's a little unusual to be a startup that actually has got like a kind of a rosy economic outlook right now. But the mindset is this. Okay, so the debt converts into equity, and then whatever that equity becomes is kind of like the future's problem, right? This is like it'd be negotiated in the future. There's no tokens involved. It's non-dilutive to the token holders. We've been explicit in that fact. Again, as a project, Ryan, me, and the whole company, I think if you put everybody together, we own less than 13% of the float. And so on the token side, and so we respect that idea that, look, we're stewards for the token holder community. And so any of this kind of capital raise in the traditional sense, we're not going to have it impugn on the token. In fact, it's kind of an all boats rise situation. I mean, these are debt holders that like fintech, that like debt and equity, and they think the token's nice. And then you have the folks that like the token stuff, that look at the TradFi and go, man, not really my bag. So in a way, by keeping them separate, we're actually providing a benefit to both. The use of proceeds, one is we want to almost double, maybe like 2x our engineering team size. We have about like 10 engineers. Like, you think about it, we have a pretty deep engineering staff, and they're so awesome. They're just top to bottom decent guys. But there are these tickets, there are these projects we want to tackle that I would love just to have like another army of engineers building this stuff up. Then the other stuff is legal and regulatory. Probably need about $1 million to get legal and regulatory compliance up to where it needs to be to get the like when you think about the volume we're going to be passing through our pipes, in the billions. I know that $40 billion number that I thought we were going to hit by the end of the year, and that clearly not. At some point we will be at that number, right? Hopefully sooner rather than later. And the rails from a legal and compliance standpoint to maintain and monitor and control that on behalf of our clients or with our clients isn't going to be cheap. And then another piece of it is just like the exchange listings, right? Like everyone's like, hey, when tier one, what this and that, a Binance listing, if that were on the table, that's $1 million. When we talk about liquidity pools, even on the DEXs, we're talking, wanting to put some treasury into those LP pools. Well, going to take $1 million. So you can see right there, like a $5 million raise, especially on a company right now that has at least a token market cap of $100 million. $5 million doesn't take you that far. So the idea is have the investors in the 5 million, be managing directors of private equity funds, be the Andreessen Horowitz guys, be the Draper Home guys, be the folks, be the Galaxy, the Novogratz guys, be the guys that when we go for the Series A to go out and try to raise more, they're already in and they're excited about the prospects. I have talked to our attorneys about, like, man, I would really love to, like, is there a way to kind of get the community holders into where they can participate? Obviously, I can't market it, right? I can't market a SEC registered. Oh, here's the good news, right? So March Capital, the broker dealer, that's the placement agent, ran this through FINRA. So for all intents and purposes, a U.S. Treasury, SEC, FINRA body, has seen us and has basically, they don't green light projects. They just don't. They'll just stop bad ones from going out, but they won't tell you you're good. The fact that we have been able to launch this with a 30-year-old broker dealer, old school out of Chicago, getting, FINRA's, not negative comment, really says a lot. But I did talk to the attorneys about, gosh, is there a way I can kind of bring the token holders in on something like that? But it's just, at this point, it's like it's two separate worlds, right? The SEC doesn't want people selling tokens as securities unless they register them as securities, and at that point, you might as well do an equity raise. So I know there's kind of a long-winded response, but that's the $5 million used for development, non-dilutive to the token holders, and sets us up for the Series A.
That's great, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to answer that.
Yeah, no worries. And if you need more information, March Capital is the broker dealer. You could you could always call them. I don't think there's anything against the law reaching out to them. You just can't ask me to buy it.
Thanks for coming on, Bisman. What up, Snapper?
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we get.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Hey, Howard and Ryan, I'm just, I just want to tell you, first of all, how much I just appreciate your humbleness and leadership as someone who's been executives in big companies and had lots of employees. It's just such a breath of fresh air to have something that's perceived as a mistake or a shortcoming just get owned by those at the top versus passing the buck or making excuses, or doing those kind of things, regardless of where the true fault may lie. Because at the end of the day, those of us that lead, we're ultimately responsible for the decisions we make. And it's just nice to hear that. And it's one of the reasons that I really love this project. The question I have that I think is important that I'd love to hear you speak to is whether it be specific to the DeFi industry or your project, what would you guys say is your strongest advantage? I have my own thoughts on that, but I'd love to hear what you guys feel is ultimately your real double-edged sword or super advantage in what you guys are trying to do.
Oh, I love that. I like that. That's a meaty question, and thank you for the appreciation. Leadership is about, in my mind, followership, and I just try to be the person. I work from fairness. I just try to be the person that when if I'm working for a company or if I'm an investor in the business, I want to be able to kind of be able to look pass a sniff test. Be able to look my mom in the eye when she was around and be like, yeah, I'm working for so and so, and they're an honorable person. So we just try to be an example there. And plus, I find it's also easier to work from one version, right? The beautiful thing about the truth is there's only one version. And if you live by it and you lead by it, you don't have to remember as much. You just got to remember the one thing that what actually happened. So I appreciate that. So Ryan, I want to kick this to you. What do you think our competitive advantages are?
I think it's even when we talk about it in the diner, right? You've been following me play around with DeFi and crypto for a while, right? I'm in the weeds. I love this stuff. All I do is play with it, like in my free time. I'm coming from the tech side. I'm super passionate about how all this stuff works. I had my ideology back in the past, and then you come from a straight finance background, right? And the Dharma paper was perfect, right? I'm like, oh, I love this paper, blah, blah. And you're like, all the terminology's wrong, all of this. I think our secret sauce is, you remember that? You're marking it up, and I'm just like, my head's exploding because I've learned so much about finance in the past couple of years. But in the end, I can execute the technology and build engineering team to execute. And then you come and I feel like I don't know how you can describe. I don't know how to describe it. But when we do our talks, every week, and you tell me the conversations, I feel that you're innovating in the finance space with the relationships that you have from your 20 years experience. I feel the innovation around business and legal and regulatory compliance is going to be the secret sauce. And then I don't feel there's any execution risk. There's always challenges in software development and all that, but I feel that I can bring to the table just getting hands on the keyboard, getting a team that's highly motivated, and then you're innovating on that side. And I feel that innovation is really going to lock the people in. And then there's no risk on, okay, this is what we're building. This is the roadmap. This is what we're going to do. And then we just do it. So I feel that's the secret sauce, and then we enable the rest of our team to follow behind that. You brought on JR. The analysis he's done around collateral and coming from a hedge fund background and the Excel spreadsheets and the analysis that he's done, I really feel in 6 months you've brought on someone who's going to be an industry leader on how to manage crypto and baskets of crypto and manage a lending platform and treasury. Like, it's just amazing to see you bring in leaders who I helped get up to speed in DeFi and crypto, and get them up to speed on crypto, and then we just execute. So I feel like that's the secret sauce. I mean, a lot of times early startups, it's about the team and about what they're willing to do, and then me and you can slog through a lot of difficulties and come out the other side with respect for each other. And founder risk is a non-issue. Like we're going to plow forward and execute for our community and our team, regardless. You know, we're there's no way we're dropping this ball.
No, and it's funny. JR ran into me tonight, and I have to get him his hoodie.
Yeah.
And I'm literally in the parking lot, and he's like, man, I love Ohm. He loves Ohm so much. He wants to marry it. You know that?
Yeah, I mean, it was in May when he was talking through at the golf course. We're doing our eRSDL. We had a bunch of community members, and we're playing golf. And he's like, this bonding approach is going to be, and how they manage treasury is going to be a different approach on how people are giving coins away to incentivize liquidity buildup. It is going to be not a bootstrapping approach. The way they're doing it is going to be a long-term play for viability of company treasuries and doing deals to improve and diversify a treasury and a basket of treasury assets. And I was like, man, I didn't know what he was saying. Like, it took like 3 weeks to, I'm a tech guy, but once I started to follow the project and started to stake myself and started to bond myself, I was like, this does feel like an innovative way to, as a next phase of just providing yield farming tokens to get users and community to coordinate around getting more of your token and gaining more for its utility. It seems like a more of a longer and sustainable approach in their own pro that they have. The way they articulate what the current problem in DeFi is and how to incentivize folks to build liquidity in a treasury of a project. That's what I'm saying. In 6 months, I feel like he's going to be like this DeFi crypto thought leader, and we want to get his brain out. Yeah. So I love
Yeah,
I love
we do.
him.
We do.
I love that guy.
Yeah, we have to get him out in front of. I think we really need to bring him out, and he he was, he got in touch with the guys, with the founders over there, and he had some initial convos. And I said to him tonight, I was like, get it to Chris. Chris will drive, the multi-chain and the poly-chain discussion. I know this is a little bit different than that, but we have the people to hand that off to. And I think the competitive advantage in part is it's the listening. It's the people, and it's not even cliche. I mean, it's literally like, hey, you guys need to consider this. That's why I'm excited about the forum going up, right? That we'll have a place, home territory, where we could start, like I said, that DAO migration by having a formal way of percolating up thoughts from the community, and then packaging it, getting feedback. And then I think the other thing with us is we're good at execution. Like, we say we're going to do something, right? New website's coming out. That's moving along. We got this website out. We got this overlay. We got the product launch. There really isn't, not to say that we're unfuttable, but we certainly, if people are looking for proof that we're not just talking out our butts and that we're actually executing what we say we will, you can see that history. You can look at the Medium posts. You can look at the white paper and see how we're knocking it out. So I would say that ability to execute and the diversity of the team, those are our competitive advantages.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you, Mewtwo, Super High, and Chase for finally having Howard on. You guys have such a great show and a great format. I'm just proud of your success as well.
We appreciate that more than you know, for sure. Or at least I do, personally. I know the team does as well, but I just spoke for them.
Nah, for sure. I appreciate that. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Cool. I think Howard, actually, before we let you go, I did have one last question. I know you tweeted out a little while ago, maybe a few weeks ago, and actually tagged Mark Cuban. I was curious if you could comment on like what that was about.
You know, it's funny, right? He's obviously kind of a big deal in the space. And I've had the pleasure really through my crypto adventure. You know, everyone has their own crypto path, where, you know, somebody like a sports agent that's an e-residual holder had connected us. And I mean, it's amazing when you talk to people that when I say money literally doesn't mean anything. Like, he's not living on this plane anymore, right? He's not living on this existence plane from a finance perspective. He is nothing but, I think he's just a really decent human being, and kind of just a brass tacks entrepreneur. And in the conversation, he simply said, he's like, just, you know, he's like, let me know when, you know, as you get banks, right? So like, we got the percent deal, which is an alternative lender. We have the MOU. He's like, let me know. And we have, through our network, some other inroads to him. And because I met him through this sports agent thing, and then separately now he actually knows someone that we're affiliated with, there's kind of like a kind of a big brothers watching kind of deal, right? Not to say that it means anything, right? I mean, there's probably, I'm going to assume he fields 1,000 emails and messages a day from projects, not even in crypto, right? Everything from, you know, making linens to sending people to space. I'm sure try to bend his ear, but you know, he asked to be informed when we did it, and I was following suit. So I think that's all I'll say about
Okay.
that right now.
And I love in the threads that I've been able to see happen between him. You know, I'm an avid Shark Tank. I've watched every episode of Shark Tank. I'm a born entrepreneur. I came to San Francisco 15 years ago just because I wanted to go to the epicenter at the time. I'm not saying it's that now, but he really holds you to metrics that we need to care about, and we always need to be disciplined around. Product releases, number of users per product, number of customers, number of revenue running through the pipes. He's very adamant. Shark Tank, all that. He's very disciplined. So he adds, when I see the chats, it enforces and builds that discipline, and what we should think about, as a company. It's all about onboarding users, all about running money through the pipes. It's all about delivering products people like, and validating we're solving a customer's need. And it's just great. I just enjoy it because I'm an avid Shark Tank watcher, and I like watching the
It's kind
I
of
like
like
watching
having
the
a dad,
discipline
isn't
he
he,
has
bro?
across all businesses, right, and evaluating them.
Isn't he like, he's kind of like the dad of all entrepreneurs, right? Like, you go in and you're like, look at this cool hat, look at this cool stuff we did, and he's like, well, did you clean your room? Did you do the dishes? No. Who cares about your hat? You know, do dishes.
All right. Well, you'll keep us in suspense. What's happening with Mark? I'm kind of thinking he's going to be an advisor, but maybe I could be off base. Well, Howard, Ryan, really, really appreciate both of you just taking the time out, coming on the base space. I know for myself and the team, we greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for everybody that joined. Thanks for taking the time out of your Monday evening. Ryan, it's always great to hang out, bro. You know, Ryan, you and I don't get to hang out that much. So I kind of look at this as like good, like, bro time.
Yeah, it's always good to see that we do collaborate. We do interact quite a bit, and we have a natural of way of keeping each other up to date and in sync with each other. So hope everyone got a gist of that. It's good to hear us both together. People get a gist for the flow that we have.
This is how we work. Yeah, that's how we work.
Hey,
Right on,
Howard,
guys.
I love it.
we do record these. Do you mind if we upload it on our YouTube? And if there's a part you need cut out, we can do that as well.
No, go ahead. Let me tell you, transparency, right? My feeling is that if everybody is working from the same information, they'll generally come to the same conclusions. So, and the honesty, and only one version of the truth. So if I wasn't comfortable I wouldn't have said it, right? If I didn't think it was gonna be out there for for all time. So you're in good shape. I appreciate you putting it out there for folks, and hopefully the people that are listening, when it does go up, let other folks know. They can kind of get a beat on where we are, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we'll actually send you the link over as well when we tweet it out, and y'all could retweet it as well if you'd like.
Cool. Yeah, all boats rise.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody, stay based.
Stay based.
All right, guys.